Okay, welcome everyone to Tanya Outside In, chapter 16. So, chapter 16, something changes in the Holy Sefer Tanya. Um, Chapter 1 introduces the Nefesh Bahamis, chapter 2, the Nefesh Elokis, chapter 3, the mechanics of the Nefesh Elokis. Number 4 is about mitzvahs, number 5 is about Torah, 6, 7, 8 is about Klippa and Sitra Achra. Um, Chapter 9 starts talking about the relationship between. You don't have a couple on you, shouldn't I? That's stuff. Chapter 9. So, someone here, it is just say hello to everyone. People don't realize I've got a friend here. He didn't have a couple on because he came with his bicycles. He's just sitting there without a couple. I'm just anyway. Um, um, that happened to me once in Sfas when I lived in Sfas. I slept in the day for about half an hour and I go and I walked to the shops and I'm dressed like not Haredi but from whatever. And I didn't have my couple on. Some old woman's there. She's like looking at me, like going anyway. Um I was like, oh no, I'm standing there like this. Anyway, chapter 9 is talking about how the Nefesh Elokis and the Nefesh Bahamis are kind of coexisting within the Mensch. Chapter 10 is the Tzaddik. Chapter 11 is the Rasha. Then chapters 12, 13, 14, 15 are all about the Benoni. Okay. And now that's kind of like the introduction. Now the Rebbe has finished explaining to us all the kind of the mechanics, the pieces. It's like explaining to us the chess game and then explaining to us that the pawn can move forward and take to diagonal and that the queen goes out. By the way, I just realized this. What's shut with the queen and the king? What's the Kabbalah behind the queen and the king? Why does the queen move in all those directions and the king just goes in one movement? That's the Indian of the Malka. That's the difference in the Melech and the Malka. Is the Melech is able to do everything, but he is centered inside the palace.
Like the chuppah,
It's
the woman goes
through
around the man.
okay, another. It's the Malka, it's the feminine aspect that goes out. So it's the queen does what the king does, just more, just goes further. So that's the idea, that's the Kabbalah behind the king and the queen. Anyway. So now we've basically worked out or learned all the all the parts of the puzzle. Yeah. Now the Rebbe explains us what we are here to do. Now the next two chapters, chapters 16 and 17, are what are called the long way. The Tanya describes to us the long way and the short way to serve Hashem. Okay, it's funny because the long way takes two chapters and the short way takes like seven chapters.
Hmm.
but but that's yeah. The long way, in a nutshell, is what we call his boinanus. And this is what the Rebbe is going to now be explaining what is his boinanus. And we discussed in chapter 12 the concept of Moed Sholat Alalev, that the mind dominates the heart. Now, we're going to be using a term that is also confusingly called Moed Sholat Alalev. Okay, it's not that they're synonymous terms, it's the same word for two different things. So Moed Sholat Alalev in chapter 12 is talking about the idea of being able to trump your Ratzon is able to trump your emotions, meaning it's up to you to behave. You can behave in any way that you want. Okay, you are not
Victim,
compelled. What?
victim or compelled.
Yeah, you're not compelled to act in any way. You are in control. That's what we call moich sholet alalev, that your mind is in control of the heart, and if need be, you will trump the desires of your heart, and you will do, speak, and think the right thing. Okay, that's the moich sholet alalev of chapter 12. The moich sholet alalev of chapter 16 and 17 is now expressing or describing this idea of manipulating the heart through your mind, using your mind to transform your heart. And in my opinion, yeah, and I know it's not the opinion of everybody, but it's the opinion of some people. But the way I see Sefer Tanya, for that, for whatever that's worth, is this is the Ikka Avoda. Even though the Pashup Pshat, the Ikka Avoda of Sefer Tanya is behavioral perfection, the way that I read the Sefer Tanya is the Ikka Avoda of Tanya is the inner perfection. And the external perfection, the behavioral perfection, is the way, the Ikka way that we get to the internal perfection. That's how I understand it, and I know other people understand it differently, but that's
Is
my
that same as saying that it's
put out the
Hitsonius is mashpia on, is that the
yeah,
same thing?
that's like the way fake it till you make it kind of thing, to say it in very simple terms. But it basically means this is what I understand the real avoid of the Tanya is that we are using our mind and our behavior by extension of that to actually transform our inner world, our emotional world, that we should become aligned with the Rabbanu Shalom, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, and it's really not out of our reach. It's not out of our reach, and I resent the fact that there's a lot of feeling in the Jewish world of there's the avoider of the big tzaddikim and the Talmidei Chachamim, and then there's us. Okay, and halavai, yeah, thank God I'm putting on tefillin every day and I daven shachris. Yeah, but that is in my mind that's a tragic way of seeing it. We are the highest levels of avodas Hashem, the highest levels of true avodah lishma are available to every single yid, and to resign yourself to this like kind of mediocrity in your avodas Hashem is not Beseder. It's not Beseder. We are here to we can serve Hashem. We really can serve Hashem, and we have to know that and believe that with all our heart. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, so chapter Tez Zion. Okay, look, hold on. If people don't understand stuff, please stop me because it is a little bit complicated. But okay. V'zeh klal gadol ba'avodas Hashem lebeinonim, and this is a big klal for the in avodas Hashem for the Beinoni. Ha'ikahu limsho v'lishloi al hateva shebachalei smoli. The ikah is to rule over the nature, the selfish nature in the left side of the heart. Al yedei or Hashem and meir nefesh lakis, through the light of Hashem that shines into the nefesh lakis. Sheba moichoi, that resides primarily in the brain. Lishloi alalev, and that dominates and rules over the heart. Because shemizboinein, when shemizboinein b'moiche b'gedulas ha'insof baruch hu, when he's mizboinen, which means he perseverates. There's a word, it's perseverates from the
Perceives.
what, Ben?
Meditate?
Yeah, no, meditate for sure, but there's another word like perseverates, something like that. It means like you mull over, whatever. Yeah, but when you meditate,
Pontificate.
no, there's a different word, but yeah, that's also good. Not really pontificate, but anyway, when you meditate in your mind on the Gedulas Hashem, Gedulas Ein Baruch Hu, when you think about the Rebbeinu Shalom, and the primary time to do that is Shachris, and to use the words of David HaMelech and of Nach, and also the Maimorim that I found, the Maimorim of the Rebbes, of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, of many of the Chabad Rebbes. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff that I don't know about, but those kind of take a time out, and
Isn't chakras like too rushed to do it?
is
Like,
Shachris
even
too
at
rushed?
25 minutes of Gezerim, still like you really want to do it deep. His bonus.
No, 25 minutes is you can go with that for 25. You can do something in 25 minutes for sure. For sure. As long as you hear that, as long as you keep with the meaning of the words and you keep moving forward. The point of his boinerness is from Lashon boiner. That's the point. It's from Lashon binyan, that you build, you layer ideas on ideas on ideas. And it's like music, like a crescendo of music. That's what his boinerness is. The avoid of his body, it's not just thinking about God, it's about thinking about God in a structured way that layers ideas on top of each other that kind of catalyzes some kind of emotional response. Okay, and again, these avoiders are not beyond us. They're really not beyond us. They're really not. Yeah, so the ikka is that we generate this light, so to speak, when we're mizboinen and gedulas ein so baruch hu laholim binasai ruach das v'yos Hashem, that you give birth from the bina. Yeah, that's lashon of boine. That's the faculty of the mind that's used primarily in his boineness. Ruach das, meaning you identify with this information. And what does das lead to? What does das give birth to? Das gives birth to emotions. Okay, that's why the shin on the head of the tefillin has four arms. Yeah, chochma bina, and then das is kolel, chesed, and gevura. So das gives birth to emotions, because das is where the I becomes mixed in. And as we've said many times, intellect, there's no I in intellect. 1 + 1 = 2. 10 × 10 = 100. What's that got to do with you? Yeah, when we're gone, 10 × 10 will still equal 100 in exactly the same way it did. But my love for you, when I'm gone, it's gone. Emotions are exclusively subjective. They're about me. Intellect is exclusively objective. It's about that. One is completely outward focused, one is completely inward focused. So emotions take place when the I gets mixed in with an idea. So when you perseverate, whatever that word is, when you're misboinen, yeah, with your bina on an idea to the point where you start to become where you start not emotionally, where you start to become identified with the idea, meaning your sense of I becomes mixed in with the idea. That's where emotions are born. Because before there's an I in the idea, there's a me in the idea. Well, there's no one to have emotions. It's just an idea. Yeah. But once you've really gone into the idea and you've started to identify with the idea, now we start to have emotions about the idea. So if I'm going through Shachris, yeah, and I'm starting by the way, I highly recommend saying Yedid Nefesh before you start. There's you say Hareini Makabel Elam Asas Mitzvahs V'Yahavta L'Recha Kamoicha before Pesukah Zimra. Yeah, that's a big one. But I say Da Lifnei Miata Omed before I start I start with the Chadodi, not the Chadodi, slicha, Yedid Nefesh, and Da Lifnei Miata Omed. You ever thought about what those words mean? Da Lifnei Miata Omed. You can translate it as Da to the ponim of who you are standing before, meaning Da is exactly what we just said, Das. The whole point of tefillah is to get to the madrega of Das. So Da lepanim, be makasha yourself, become identified, and therefore give it birth to emotions to the panemius of the Rebbeinu Shloim. That's the whole avoidance of tefillah. Da lifnei miata omed. Da. Das. So the whole avoidance of tefillah is using your bina in such a way that you actually the ideas fall into your das, and then you have emotions. That's just how the system works. And this is not talking about this is in the hemshech of the day. This is in the long run, where this avoider, which is what we're trying to do in tefillah, will give you the koyach to be how do you say that? To flee from what is asa? Do I say afilu isa kausho devreihem chas v'shalom? Yeah, even a slight rabbinical infringement you will not do. The avos Hashem beliboy b'chali yemini b'chasheich v'chayitzel adabka boy b'kiyam mitzvahs doirasim d'bar tamator shegeneged kulam, meaning that this energy that you generate through your hisboinus, dafka through shachris, will stay with you for the day. This is what I say all the time. This is where it comes from. It will stay with you the whole day. And the year that you generate during Shachris will give you koyach to avoid all the shasat mitzvahs lo saseh. And the ava that you generate will give you koyach to be involved in to perform all the ramach mitzvahs aseh for the rest of the day. This is what I say. I've said many times that your whole Yiddishkeit is predicated on Shachris. This is where it comes from. This is where it comes from.
Can you repeat that?
That the year that you generate during Shacharis stays with you for the day and gives you the energy to not do any of the 365 prohibitions. And the Ava that you generate during Shacharis stays with you for the day and gives you the energy that you need to perform all of the 248 positive mitzvahs. And he says, he throws in at the end, the Talmud Torah shekeneged kulam, meaning you should always be a suk in Talmud Torah. Always. You have to have a safe in your pocket. This year I'm doing Sefer Tanya. I'm trying to go through it a whole bunch of times. So I have it in my pocket. I broke it down into daily. You can see here, this is 19b. And that takes you through to 19c. And that takes you through to 20a. So it goes 20A, 20B, 20C, 21A, 20B, 21B, 21C, and I do a little halip after Shachris Mincha Mov. I'll get through the Sefer the amount of times I decide to get through the Sefer this year, B'ezrat Hashem. But it also means, maybe more importantly, is that I've got this Sefer in my pocket all the time. And if ever I get stuck somewhere, I'm waiting for something or that, instead of me, well, my phone just has Snake, but instead of me doing something like stupid or whatever, just sitting there, I can pull out my Sefer and I can be asuk in Talmud Torah. That's givoldik. Okay, so I recommend that. I recommend that. How would you say that?
Voda.
What?
That a voda? What?
Yeah, but the not preparation, like but having some kind of foresight, setting yourself up so that you've got a safer like that. I forgot, someone called it a kitschy cute name the other day, whatever. But where you've got some kind of safer that you can always
Anchor.
open up. What?
Anchor?
Well, yeah, where it doesn't take, it's not, it's in the language you understand, or the safer well, or whatever it fits in your pocket. You've got it with you the whole time, and that's a very holy thing. Okay, the Yesa Olkain, and more than this, Tzeich Leila, you need to know Klal Gadol Avoida Beinoini. You need to know a big Klal in the Avoida of Beinoini. Shagam im ein yad sichloi v'ruach binachsoi meseres loyli la'ahavas Hashem b'sgalas liboy. If you don't have the power of intellect to actually give birth to palpable emotions in the heart, sheliboy boya karishpe eish, where your heart is actually on fire. Yeah, v'chafetz b'chafetz v'chashek v'tshuka mugeshes b'leiv l'dabkaboy. You're experiencing a palpable emotion. The heart is pumping in a different rhythm, a more intense rhythm. That's how Rav Manis explains it. You've got three kinds of emotions. Chemical, most of them are chemical, but you've got chemical, electrical, and mechanical. Yeah, love and fear are the two in the most simple sense, mechanical emotions, meaning it's to do with the pumping of the heart. It's not chemicals in the blood, that also might come with it, but primarily they're mechanical emotions. So when you love, your heart pumps to a different rhythm, and when you fear, your heart pumps quicker. So those are mechanical, as opposed to for the endocrine system, which floods your body with dopamine or whatever, ghrelin or whatever the funny chemicals are that make you feel different ways. Yeah, so we're talking about a mechanical, physiological experience, but the person has got a strong enough mind. I'll explain this. I was trying to explain this. That I've told everyone about that time when I watched that movie, the Thor Ragnarok, I think it was called, yeah. And I was sitting there watching, yeah, I'm watching this little rat guy and this big green thing and this man made out of rocks in a spaceship dressed up like superheroes. And I'm crying and I'm Pasha crying. And I just, it was unbelievable. What happened is that Hollywood have worked out they've worked out the formula to pull the strings of your heart. And I got a normal healthy heart, l'choira, and they pulled my strings just like they would pull anyone else's strings, yeah. That takes a deep intellect to do that. The people who wrote Thor Ragnarok or who created that film were, probably some of the most talented people in the world, with the Marvel team is the. So I went to when we went last year to Rabbi Katz's a couple of years ago to his meditation seminar. He was bringing people, dozens, hundreds of people, to deep emotional experiences, spiritual experiences, yeah. And I attribute that, I personally attribute that to his tremendous intellect, that he has got the ability to create, so to speak, a movie in people's minds that just opens their heart or lifts them up or merges them with oneness, whatever feeling he wants to bring them to. Yeah. But that's a din on intellect. You need to know the exact right thing to say, the way to say it, the timing of when to say it. Yeah, if you can bring in the right music at the right time, if you can get people into the right situation, the right atmosphere, the right smells, the right lighting, v'chule, v'chule, v'chule. If you can fit all of those things, if you've got a giant intellect and you're on top of the whole thing from the seats that people are sitting in to the music, to the words, to the visuals, to everything, yeah? If your mind can be shola over all of those variables, you can bring people to deep emotional and spiritual experiences. It's a din on the intellect. And that's what he's saying here. If you don't have an intellect that is strong like that, yeah, then there's a good chance that you won't be able to do this to yourself. There's a very, very good chance. And most of us wouldn't be able to bring ourselves to the kind of levels that people very well trained and very intelligent could bring us to or themselves to. Okay, so this is what he's addressing now. So what about the guy who's like us, of an average intellect, a regular intellect, and he can't um, manipulate himself in such a sophisticated manner to actually generate palpable emotions? What about him? So this is what the Rebbe says now. Behiskalis liboy, to create a palpable emotion in the revealed aspect of the heart. Shia liboy boya krish be eish, his heart should be flaming. V'chavis b'chafetze v'chasheka with a genuine longing. Uchuka mugeshes, and a palpable experienced chuka. Believe ledabka boy. Yeah, to be davik to Hashem. Rak ava mususes b'moichoi. V'talumois liboy. Listen to this really interesting lashon. Listen to this. This is so interesting. What he is able to create, rak ha'ava mesuseres b'moichoi, a love concealed in the mind. What's a love in the mind? V'talumois liboy, and in the hidden aspect of the heart. Don't you halev mavin beruach chochma ubina. Shebemoichoi. Listen to how he flips it around. It's crazy what he's saying here. That the heart will understand with the ruach of chokhmah. He said that there will be a love in the concealed part of the brain, and the heart will understand with the ruach chokhmah.
Shane of
You hear that? What?
Is that a Shane of Olivier? Is the same thing?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's really the opposite of that. He's saying that you'll have love in your brain and understanding in your heart. You're like, I don't understand. Your brain understands and your heart loves. What are you talking about? Love in your brain and understanding in your heart.
Yep.
Flipped it around. This is the person who doesn't have the ability to actually generate. He's not the Marvel team, put it that way. He's not the Marvel team. His mind isn't at the level of the people who made this Marvel film. Yeah. He's of a regular intelligence. So he just can't do it to himself where his mum's heart is bouncing out of its cavity. Yeah. But what he can do is he realizes that it makes sense that it should be like that. He can't actually create such an emotion in his heart, but he knows that it's fitting. It's fitting that it should be like that. He knows that he should be having these emotions, but he's not having these emotions. Like we all know. We all know when we're sitting there by a Sumaya, yeah, and his mum, you think he's just going to explode out his body, and there's just going to be like, kishkas all over the place and blood, and they'll just be like this like splash of light, and you'll see like a little burn mark on the ceiling or something, yeah. And we're like there thinking, I wish, like, it makes sense. No, I know that Einod Milvado, I know that, and I know that my whole independent reality is just an illusion, and I know that there's nothing else in the world other than Torah and mitzvahs, and I mean, l'choira, I should be bouncing out of my kalim, yeah, but I'm not. That's what he's talking about here. That experience where you know, like where we can get to genuinely. Yeah, we know that we should be mamish bouncing out of our kalim, but we're not. That is what he calls a ava says a hidden heart, a hidden love in the mind, the talumois liboy, and concealed in the heart. Shahalev mavin beruach chochma ubina. That the heart understands with it intellectually. He understands the Einod Mulvadoi. He's very clear on that. It's fitting for him. It makes sense that he should be mamash platzing and bursting out of his kalim to be nivla back into the Ribbono Shel Olam. He knows that that's how it should be, but that's not what I'm feeling. But he knows that he should be feeling that. V'gam nashoi v'rucho esher b'kir boy kach ya'asa lehen liyois kalos elav. He knows that it's fitting for every aspect of his soul that it's fitting that it should be kalos alav, like pining to be nisbatel into him, Yisbarach. V'chasheka v'chavetzel, it says menatikan hu haguf, that he should be like, he should be feeling frustrated. I had an experience one time many years ago when I took magic mushrooms in India, and I was lying there. I remember lying there. This is before I knew anything about Yiddishkeit B'chlal, completely secular, lying there on a forest floor, yeah, looking up at these massive trees in actual pain, for the fact that my neshama was bound up in my goof. It was like I was trying so hard to rip out and I was stuck. And it was one of the most horrible feelings of my life. Just like, like when you're a kid, if you ever have to hold your kid down and you feel your kid like trying to break out and he starts crying and screaming, he just wants to break free, and you have to like constrain him for some reason. I felt that so deeply in that forest in South India. And this is what he like Havda, this is really what he's saying is that you know that you should be feeling that. You should be feeling that you want to leave the nartikan, it calls it, the vessel, Yahuwah Guf, which is the body, ledabek boy, to be nistabek into Hashem. Rak shabal korchoi chayas heina b'soicha guf. But against your will, you are like chayas, which is women whose husbands are gone, who aren't they're not known, they're not actually they haven't been, it's not established that they've died, and the women are therefore they're called almanas chayas. Shabuka chayas in a besoicha guf, that he's bound within the goof. But surus boy ka almanas chayas, and he's bound like living widows. V'leis machshava dileho into fisa beiklau, and they can't be toifus anything in the Rebbeinu Shalom. King ka'asher tefisim the bashes b'toyer of mitzvah seha kamosha machabek hasamelech. The only tefisa that they can have now in the Rebbeinu Shalom is through his Torah and mitzvahs, meaning that he's got no. See, I suppose a man with a tremendous intellect, or a lame with a tremendous intellect, who is misboining on these ideas, could get to the point where they're experiencing a genuine, like we just said, a genuine experience, a genuine ruchnius or emotional experience. I'm not sure if there's a difference. Yeah, and that would be considered like having some kind of connection to Hashem in a sense without Torah and mitzvahs. Because our connection to Hashem is through Torah and mitzvahs. So now he goes on. Yeah. But Ilazois Yasa lehen lechabkoi b'chol leiv v'nefesh u'ma'oid. Dahainu kiyim atayag mitzvahs b'maisadim v'machshava she asagas v'yediyas atayah kanal. And this, so to speak, non-emotion that this regular guy is feeling, that he knows that it makes sense to have a real emotion, but he doesn't have it, that compels him into avodas Hashem. It's through that kind of, it's, I don't know if you'd say it's because he's feeling that he's lacking, or that he knows that it makes sense to be davek to Hashem. But either way, the fact that he generated in himself a understanding, the way Maimonides calls it, he calls it a conviction. Yeah, a conviction that he should be going out of his kalim. That is what motivates him to learn Torah and do mitzvahs. Meaning he's doing Torah, he's doing avodah because of this conviction in his heart.
That he wants to from
that he knows it makes sense to go out of his body, but he doesn't feel like that. So what does he do? He grabs a sefer and he starts learning. Or he knows he wants to go out of his body and he can't do that, so he grabs his tefillin, or he puts some money in tzedakah, or he does any other mitzvah that's available to him. Yeah, that's a very holy thing. In fact, that could be an even holier thing, because the guy who's actually having the palpable emotion, he might just end up sitting there and being misaneg on the emotion. It could be that this guy who's experienced a tremendous devakus, yeah, will just enjoy that experience. Whereas this guy, yeah, he's not having an experience to enjoy. He's just having energy to now go and pick up the sefer, or to go and do the mitzvah that he was debating whether or not to do. Okay, and this is what the Rebbe is going to say here now. Ve'ila zois, if it wasn't for this, now that he wouldn't go and do Torah and mitzvahs if it wasn't for this. He wouldn't get involved in Torah and mitzvahs. Hine, kishemamig be'inyan ze betalumois tevunois liboy umoichoi v'piva liboy shavin. When he delves into this inyan, in the using his intellect, and his mouth and his heart are equal, meaning he's talking out. It's like a shtickle his boidus session here. He's talking this out, yeah. Shmakaim came befiv kafi asher nigma b'tevunos libo emoichoi, then liyos b'toras Hashem cheftzoi v'yaga b'yom v'layla befiv. He mamash, this causes him to learn Torah with a great hasmada. V'cheni yadayim v'shai v'ayim makayim and mitzvahs kafi ma shenigma b'tevunos libo emoichoi, and his limbs go out and do the mitzvahs according to what his brain understood. Hay tevunos zu, this understanding that he came to, mislabeshes b'ma'aseh divrei machshava Torah mitzvahs se'ah, liyos lehem b'chinas moichin v'chayas, or chiyas, v'chayas, v'gadfid lepecha la'ela ke'ilu asak b'hem b'techilu u'echemu mamash. That through this conviction in the mind that he came to, he is involved in Torah and mitzvahs. The Rebbe says that because this is energizing the Torah and mitzvahs, the Kodesh Baruch Hu makes is going to say it's kind of like a nace, where he gives this energy, the koyach, to lift the mitzvah up to, he's going to say, the level of Bria, Olam HaBria. Okay? We're going to hold here. I just want to explain this in quite quickly, and then we'll finish next week with Zot Hashem. That the idea of a mitzvah being lifted up to different Olamas, yeah, which we'll talk about much later in the chapter 38, 39, 40, is I've heard a few different things on this, but I'll tell you the way that I understand Rav Manis, which is most misyashev alalev, is that as the mitzvah goes higher, it becomes more godly, meaning it's done with it's ironic, but it's done with less self-interest, meaning it's done with more godly perspective. And the difference is going to be when we talk about the level of Yetzirah and the level of Bria. The level of Yetzirah is the level of natural emotions. The level of Bria is the world of intellectually catalyzed emotions. And just to explain the difference quickly, is if you go to a college campus and you find the regular, like, what are they called, fraternity? Is it like the fraternity or maternity or something? Fraternity. Like the regular, like, you know, your regular fraternity guy, yeah? Who's just, you know, he's into drinking and womanizing and a little bit drugs, etc., yeah? And then compare how much energy he puts into his tivers compared to the radical Islamists or the big the big communists or whatever it is, yeah. He doesn't put as much energy in. The people with the ideology who've invested their mind into their ideologies, their emotions are much more visceral than the guys who are just into their tivers. The guys who are just into their tivers, they'll put themselves out for their tivers, but only ad kan. The guys who are into their ideologies, yeah, which have been using their minds to get these ideologies more and more, there isn't an ad kan for them. You with me? Meaning the emotions are much more palpable. The emotions are much more real. When we do, they're not our mitzvahs, they're Hashem's mitzvahs, yeah? So what does it mean you've got really deep emotions to do his mitzvahs? That's godly, because you only really do something you only do something with huge energy when it's your thing. You can't put the same kind of energy into doing someone else's thing. You just can't do it. And that's the kunst of Google and Apple and these big companies is they've manipulated their employees to feel that really they are Google or Google is them, they are Google, yeah? So they're putting everything into their work because it's their work. That's how Google they've done it so amazingly because you can't put yourself into something for somebody else like you can for yourself. Yeah. But that it's paradoxical because if you become the other person, so to speak, then you can. So when you're doing something for your wife, something really real for your wife, yeah, you can put more energy into it than you can do for making yourself dinner, yeah. So it's just the backward for what I said. But it's not. Because the reason why you can do it for your wife is because you've become her, she's become you, in a sense. That's called to be misaneg on someone, where their oineg fills your body. That's what it means to be misaneg al Hashem. The ultimate level is misaneg al Hashem, meaning that he is motivating the mitzvah. It's his energy flowing through your goof and through your kalim that's getting the mitzvah done. That means your tainug has been replaced by his tainug. Your tainug causes you to do stuff, yeah? It motivates you. When you get to the Madrega of Misaneg and Hashem, which is the highest Madrega, that means that your own personal tainug has been replaced by Hashem's tainug. So he's working through your goof. He's working through your kalim. And that's the idea of a emotion going up higher into the higher oilamus, meaning that you're doing it with more emotion. Why? Because you've become more identified with God. So they're his mitzvahs. So how can you be doing it with more emotion? Because you've become more like him. Okay, if you got that, that's shocking because that's taken years and years to get for me. But we'll go through it again and again. But if you got a taste of it, we will matzliach, and we'll go through it again next week, B'ezrat Hashem, and then in another couple of years when we get to the later prokim. Okay, we should be zeicher to know that even if we can't generate real palpable emotions in our heart, the fact that we know that it makes sense that we should be on fire for God, that is worth so much. It's worth so much. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, Chazay.